He thought firing him would end everything. That one simple piece of paper, the termination letter, would crush him, silence him, make him disappear. But Jake wasn't just any employee. He had a mind for strategy, a heart full of determination, and a plan that would expose every lie, every betrayal, every scheme his boss had hidden for years. And when the board finally saw the truth, Caldwell would realize he had underestimated the one person he should never have crossed. This isn't just a story about getting a job back. It's about patience, intelligence, and revenge done right. And what Jake did next, nobody saw coming. He thought firing him would end everything. That one piece of paper, the termination letter, would silence the voice that dared to challenge him. But Jake wasn't like the others. He didn't break. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. Instead, he walked out of that office with his head high, carrying something far more dangerous than anger. A plan. A plan so precise, so calculated, that it would expose every lie, every scheme, and every betrayal Caldwell had hidden for years. He was done being the victim. And the boss had no idea what was coming next. Jake had always dreamed of working at one of the top marketing firms in the city. Fresh out of college, he finally landed the job, a junior strategist position he had fought years to get. The office was everything he imagined: sleek glass walls, buzzing computers, and a team of people who seemed to know exactly what they were doing. His boss, Mr. Caldwell, appeared to be the perfect mentor, polished, confident, always ready with advice. Jake admired him, eager to learn. For months, he worked tirelessly, often staying late to perfect campaigns, pitching ideas that wowed clients, and taking on extra tasks no one else wanted. For a moment, everything felt perfect. But then, subtle cracks began to show. Mr. Caldwell started taking credit for Jake's ideas in meetings. Offhand comments became sharp digs, smiles turned into smirks, and praise for Jake's work slowly disappeared. Jake brushed it off at first, telling himself it was just corporate politics. But deep down, he knew something was off. It was a Monday morning like any other, but for Jake, it would change everything. He was called into Mr. Caldwell's office. The air felt colder than usual, the hum of the office suddenly distant. "Jake, your performance isn't meeting expectations," Caldwell said, his voice calm but icy. "You're no longer a fit for the team." Jake stared at the termination letter in disbelief. No prior warnings. No chance to explain. Just a single piece of paper, and the world he had worked so hard for seemed to crumble in an instant. He left the office stunned. Walking through the hallways, past colleagues who whispered or avoided his gaze, Jake felt a storm of anger, betrayal, and disbelief building inside him. But somewhere in that anger, a thought took root: he wouldn't let this injustice go unanswered. He would find a way, and Caldwell would regret ever underestimating him. Jake spent the first night after his firing in quiet reflection. Anger burned, yes, but beneath it was something stronger: resolve. He refused to be crushed by Caldwell's arrogance. He remembered the projects he had worked on, the late nights, the countless ideas Caldwell had stolen and claimed as his own. The inflated client reports, the manipulated budgets, the lies, all of it was there, if only he could prove it. Quietly, Jake began gathering evidence. Emails he had sent, files Caldwell had edited, screenshots of his stolen work. Every instance of dishonesty, every moment Caldwell had tried to take credit, he documented meticulously. He knew it was dangerous. If Caldwell caught him digging, he could be blacklisted forever. But Jake worked carefully, backing up files offline, organizing each piece of proof like a puzzle. Every document, every email, every note he saved was a brick in the foundation of a plan that would bring Caldwell down, and reclaim everything he had lost. After nights of collecting every email, every file, every note, Jake realized it wasn't enough just to have the evidence. He needed a strategy, a way to present it that would leave Caldwell no room to maneuver. He couldn't just go to HR. Caldwell had influence there, and any small misstep could ruin everything. No, he needed the board of directors, the people at the very top. So Jake organized the information into a clear, irrefutable report. Every lie, every stolen idea, every manipulated budget was carefully documented. The report was professional, factual, and damning. There were no emotions, no accusations without proof, just the truth laid bare. For hours, he rehearsed how he would submit it, imagining every question the board might ask, every argument Caldwell might try. By the time he finished, Jake felt a mix of nervousness and calm certainty. He wasn't just going back for his job, he was going to make sure Caldwell could never harm anyone else the way he had. The moment of truth had arrived. Jake stared at his laptop, the report open in front of him. Every carefully collected email, every manipulated budget, every stolen idea was ready to speak for itself. With a deep breath, he hit send, directly to the board of directors. He didn't just attach files, he included a detailed summary, a timeline of Caldwell's misconduct, and clear evidence of his deception. For a moment, nothing happened. The silence felt heavy, almost unbearable. Then, an email notification appeared: "We have received your report. Confidential meeting scheduled." Jake allowed himself a small smile, but he didn't celebrate. The real test was just beginning. Caldwell remained oblivious, continuing his day as usual, unaware that the walls around him were quietly closing in. Jake knew the coming days would be tense. He had planted the seed of truth, and soon, the storm would arrive. Within hours, the board had begun their investigation. Emails were cross-checked. Budgets were analyzed. Project files were scrutinized. Employees were interviewed, and slowly, the truth emerged. Caldwell's manipulations, stolen ideas, and lies could no longer be hidden. Every misstep Jake had documented was confirmed, and corroborating witnesses stepped forward, colleagues who had long feared speaking up. Meanwhile, Caldwell carried on as if nothing was happening, unaware of the growing storm around him. His confidence began to crack as subtle questions were asked behind closed doors, and whispers of his misconduct started circulating higher up. Jake watched from the sidelines, carefully keeping his distance, knowing that patience was his ally. He didn't need to confront Caldwell, he had let the evidence do all the talking. For the first time since being fired, a sense of calm determination washed over him. The scales were finally tipping in his favor. The day finally came. Caldwell walked into the boardroom with confidence, as if nothing could touch him. He had faced criticism before and always found a way to manipulate his way out. But this time was different. The room felt cold. Jake's evidence sat on the table in front of the board, every email, every stolen idea, every manipulated budget laid bare. Questions came fast. Answers faltered. Every lie Caldwell had spun for years unraveled before the eyes of the directors. Colleagues who had once been silent now spoke up, corroborating Jake's report with undeniable truth. Caldwell's smirk faded. Confidence gave way to panic. He realized too late that his years of manipulation, deceit, and abuse of power had finally caught up with him. And Jake? He watched silently, a quiet sense of vindication settling in. He didn't need to gloat. He didn't need to confront Caldwell directly. The truth was doing all the work. With Caldwell exposed and suspended, the board made their decision. Jake was invited back, not as a junior strategist, but in a position of authority, recognized for his intelligence, integrity, and perseverance. Colleagues who had once doubted him now looked at him with respect, even admiration. The whispers of gossip and fear were replaced by recognition of his skill and determination. Caldwell, once the puppet master of the office, had no choice but to leave quietly, stripped of his power and influence. His reign of manipulation was over. For Jake, the victory was not just about reclaiming his job, it was about proving that patience, strategy, and truth could triumph over deceit and arrogance. He had turned a devastating blow into an opportunity for justice and redemption. Sitting at his desk, Jake reflected on everything that had happened. The anger, the betrayal, the long nights of planning, it had all led to this moment. He realized something important: revenge isn't about lashing out or seeking destruction. It's about patience, strategy, and letting the truth speak for itself. Caldwell had thought he could silence Jake, but the truth always finds a way. And in the end, justice wasn't just served, it was earned. Jake leaned back, a quiet smile on his face. He hadn't just reclaimed his job, he had reclaimed his dignity, his confidence, and his belief that doing the right thing, even when it seems impossible, always pays off.